Hi, I'm Alfred Schipke, and I teach international trade and finance here at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. And I wanted to briefly talk to you about our latest book on Central America that I co-edited with my colleague Dominique Desruel. The title of the book is Economic Progress and Reform. This is the third volume of a series of publications on Central America and complements the previous two ones. Now, what we do in this publication, in addition to reviewing recent macroeconomic developments, we focus on a number of key topics. First, we look at the progress that has been made in terms of economic integration and the challenges that exist in this area. Then, quite timely given economic developments in the United States, we look at the linkages between Central America and the United States. Another topic that we discuss in detail are the distributional impacts of fiscal policy. We look at the establishment of a customs union, and last but not least, we have a chapter on the development of the financial system, in particular private debt and equity markets. Now, in terms of economic integration, it's of course not surprising that the most advanced area is trade integration, and the Central Americans at the end of 2007 actually agreed on a framework to establish a customs union. We actually look at the international experience for the establishment of a customs union. There are different models, different degrees of customs union, and make some recommendations based on the international experience in terms of actually implementing such a union, including using the example of the European Union. Now, another area where there is quite a bit of integration is the financial system, both within the region and more recently, over the last 3 years, a lot of international banks have bought out institutions. In the case of El Salvador, for instance, today all of the financial institutions are international institutions, with the exception of a few public ones. And that, of course, is very advantageous. But what we highlight is that in order to benefit from integration, you need to reduce the vulnerabilities. And for that, integration needs to go hand in hand with more the coordination of policy in certain areas, the harmonization of rules and regulation, in the case of the financial system, for supervision, and the harmonization of norms. Given developments in the United States, the chapter on the linkages between the U.S. and Central America highlights, interestingly, how strong the linkages have become between the two regions, especially through the trade, remittance, but also financial flow linkages. For instance, a 1 percentage point fall in output in the United States in some of the countries would be mirrored by the same fall in output. In others, the impact would be half the size, meaning an elasticity of 0.5. Now, one of the challenges for Central America has been and will be for many years to come how to overcome poverty. 50% of the population, with the exception of Costa Rica, continue to live in poverty, and here, of course, public policy and especially fiscal policy could play an important part. So we look at the income distribution effects of taxation and social spending. Not surprisingly, taxation is somewhat regressive, but the overall redistributive impact is actually not that large. On the other hand, we show that public spending is very progressive, and the combined impact clearly suggests that if we increase efficient taxation and then use the resources for well-targeted social spending programs, that could reduce poverty significantly. Now, an interesting topic in the publication that I think hasn't been studied in an applied way for small open economies is the question of whether you should develop private equity and corporate debt markets, given the challenges of the size of small economies. And we come to the conclusion that it is very unlikely that even in the more advanced countries that the size of the economy will be sufficient to develop deep private capital markets. And therefore the suggestion is either to look at the creation of a regional market or as an alternative to potentially piggyback on a market that is somewhat developed. In the case of Central America, it could, for instance, be Mexico or Colombia. So for the countries to adopt the platforms, standard and norms of those markets, which would give it a big boost for the development of their own markets. Now, the book targets, of course, academics and policymakers alike. And we think it would also be useful not only for people who are interested in Central America, but who would like to analyze these issues focusing on other regions of the world. What we hope is that we have a publication here that you would enjoy reading, and I'd like to thank you. Thank you very much.